Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
We are here with our reaction and review for the Vampire Lestat Season 3, Episode 3. This episode has a lot going on. Let's just say that from the start. It does have some really, really high highs. I think the documentary filming with Daniel, with Lestat, Sam Reed's performance in that entire scene is just like some of the best stuff I've seen all calendar year.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I truly believe that it was happening. By the time we got
Yeah.
to Daniel and he was just watching this video of a static Lestat just sitting there and it was all in their mind,
Yeah.
I was floored.
I was still in denial. I was still thinking, okay, did somebody mess with like the tech system? I still didn't.
Yeah.
I still didn't believe that it was all going on in their heads until it was actually stated on screen. It was such a good fake out, and there was so much emotional stuff that could be mined from that. Like, I really appreciated that scene, and I still think this episode, there's a lot of really great stuff in it. I will say it's a little bit more complicated than the first two,
Yeah.
and as somebody who hasn't read the source material,
Mhm.
it was a lot more challenging in that way. I think there's a lot of names that you have to keep track of. There's a lot of people, including Nikki, who's been on Interview with the Vampire before. It's not like they're completely new,
Right.
but also still people who haven't been around that much. So you do kind of have to keep track of everything in your head as it goes along.
There was a lot going on, and it was starting to get a little more muddied through this storytelling, especially near the end. But there was still some good stuff about you. There was still some good laughs. There's a big shout out to my hometown, Toronto, and this episode was even called Toronto. Lestat, man, you just need to fly up to the CN Tower and take a look at the view for yourself because it is gorgeous. I don't know what you're talking about. Also, it's pronounced Saskatchewan. It was not whatever you were trying to call it, but there have been a few problems with this episode. And for me, one of the biggest problems that's starting to come around, and I'm actually hoping that that problem got resolved at the end of this episode, is Gabriella. I'm over this character. She's, larger than life. They have a complicated relationship, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's run its course. By the time we were here and getting this interview and getting into these deeper things, all the sort of like, slapstick about her, like taking the dupe of Lestat and going to the bathroom and the screaming and the yelling. I was like, it's taking away from something that's really important in this show that I am truly deeply involved in.
Yeah, I understand the use of her in episode 2. I was fine with that part of it. But yeah, moving into this episode, it did feel like a little bit of a distraction in the sense that we all are so attached to Louis and Lestat, and that relationship is really the core of everything. And then we have, people like Armand, and we will talk a lot about Armand in this
Yes.
video, where he hasn't really had that much screen time at all this season. I know that this is Lestat's story, and Gabriella is a part of it, but at the same time, I think we all kind of want to see something build really specifically for these things that we are invested in. And
Yeah.
Gabriella is just a deterrent in that way for Louis and Lestat because she is so larger than life. Like, she just takes up that much space in the room.
Yeah, and she just has a lot of connection of trauma to Lestat. And, the ending of this episode and how chaotic it was and how they, mirrored that with what was going on with Claudia. There was a lot of this episode that was just so good.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really sad. I mean, it's a reminder that these characters have all gone through just like some unspeakable, terrible things.
And my hope is that while we were going through all of this and, Louis is, reciting these pages from Claudia's diary, and we sort of see that it's mirrored into what happened to Lestat with his maker. It was very, very close that, watching at the very end when he's on stage and he's singing and you're seeing his maker go out the door and you're seeing Gabriella go out the door. I'm just like, man, I really hope that Lestat is letting these things go in enough of a way to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I think he needs a release, and I know being on stage and performing is that in some ways, but he
Yeah.
needs a greater release than that. Like, he needs a
Yes.
release from everything. And I don't know if talking about this stuff or thinking about this stuff with Daniel is enough. Maybe it all helps him get somewhere. But I want to feel like this journey throughout the season isn't just about Lestat being a rock star as much as we enjoy that, but it's also about the path of finding a way for Louis and Lestat to be back towards each other.
And I'm really hoping that the way that this ended, with him seemingly letting go of some of his past trauma, that maybe he'll be able to move into a healthier future with Louis, because there are some things that Lestat needs to work on
Yes.
before they are back together.
All right. Well, we have so much more to discuss in this video. Before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are here talking all about the Vampire Lestat, breaking down what works, sharing theories, and of course, we love hearing what you guys have to say in the comments as well.
And speaking of theories, we have a theory up for our YouTube members. You can join our memberships here on YouTube. And that theory right now is all about whether or not Lestat is dead or faking a death right now on the show. We started the show out at this auction. It's seemingly maybe an estate auction. We have a whole video on our membership, so check that out.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate your support there.
Speaking of deaths of characters, did anybody catch that one line about Daniel in this where Lestat was basically like, yeah, Daniel had a very short life as a vampire. I was like, let's go. I do not like Daniel, and I never have.
Wow. Okay. See, I've had a complicated relationship with Daniel in the sense that I do not like most of his actions. I think I have a hard time with this character, and I know I'm not the only person that said this, that Eric Bogosian, the way that he sounds on this show, he's so reminiscent of Anthony Bourdain, and I just have all these memories of Anthony Bourdain
Yes.
that I'm just like falsely connecting the two of them. I understand Daniel's purpose on this show, but
Yes.
I caught that too. And it's like this show is sprinkling all of these breadcrumbs throughout these episodes. I mean, there's the obvious one we talk about in our members video about Lestat's fate, but then there is what happened to Daniel. There's what happened to Armand's eye. Like even just
I know, right?
all these little things that they've kind of put down the road for us to actively think about. And with Daniel, it's not hard to imagine that he would make a lot of enemies for a number of different reasons.
He absolutely would. I mean, some of the things that he admitted to in Interview with a Vampire with the girl with the bag on her head, I cannot stand this character.
Yeah, and I think
He's done some despicable things to other people, and I just feel like he's absolutely going to cross the wrong person or push the wrong person too hard, and it's just going to be the end of him.
I'm just so curious about Lestat's motives. We know some of this is, I want to claim my own power. I want to do it with the same guy who did these interviews with the Louis. But if he buys into this narrative, in which some of it he's making up in his own head, but this narrative of, all right, well, Daniel's the reason why this book ended up getting out there. This was against Louis's wishes and all of this. It's just like, you know that Daniel may do something with this documentary footage that you don't want him to, following this line of logic, right?
All right, tinfoil hat, it's going to be Lestat. He's going to be the person that kills Daniel. I feel like the reason he's brought him in is to, you know, change the narrative about Lestat, because it does change the narrative to have the same biographer then have to backpedal some things, because now you're doing, you know, this documentary with another subject of the same book, but now it's a completely different perspective. So it discredits Daniel in a lot of ways, depending on what Daniel decides to cut together in this documentary. But the fact that it was Lestat that was like, oh yeah, and his life was, you know, it was a short life as a vampire. I'm like, okay, so that might be part of it as well. You love revenge. You're just going to bring him in. You're going to get him to do this documentary, and then you're never going to let him cut it together the way that he wants. Instead, you're going to kill him, and you're going to take that footage and do what you want yourself.
I think there's a very realistic possibility that we see something like this play out on the. It makes the most sense for Lestat, because it really comes down to, why do you want to work with somebody who, frankly, you don't trust and you don't
know?
Yeah, and I know he speaks a little bit about regret when it comes to Daniel, but at the same time, you can regret some things and still want the same motivation at the end. Maybe you wanted things to happen a little bit differently in the middle.
I think he's picking a fight with him. That's what it felt like after he gave all of this to Daniel to give some real insight on the real of what happened to him with his maker, some of the things that had happened with his mom, what happened with Nikki, that he has real like insight, but he cannot share that insight with anybody now. And that was just a way to throw the first barb at him and do the first pick at him because it definitely made Daniel pissed off.
Well, this is the great and glorious thing, is just watching all of these people slowly and slowly rise against Lestat as this goes along. Like, this dude is doing himself no favors. I mean, sure, he's entertaining people at his rock shows, but he's got Daniel, who's very irritated with him at this point. He has Alex, who still hasn't come back to the band. And then you have this reveal at the end of this episode where he's at a meeting
Yeah.
and we're seeing all these people kind of slowly go around. I think at that point, we're all feeling like, all right, we're going to recognize somebody.
Somebody.
And then it's Armand.
Shocking. I did not expect it to be Armand at all. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, he's got to be there because he's trying to track Lestat, right? He's trying to get close to Lestat. He's trying to get back in contact with him, right?
Yeah, I think he has to be. And I think his motives and understanding those are going to be really important to the rest of this season, because Armand's always been a little bit of a rogue in this way, where he's
Yes.
got this history with Louis, this affection for Louis. Like, we can call some of this jealousy, but at the same time, it's deeper than that, because we saw a little bit of Lestat in Armand's history in this
Yes.
episode. And I think everything surrounding Nikki and these two, like, this stuff was devastating. Like, just absolutely rip your heart out, stomp on it, throw it against the wall and stomp on it again. It was so hard to watch, culminating in what Armand ultimately does to who was essentially one of Lestat's first loves.
Yeah, I mean, Armand is hard. He is tough, and he
Yeah.
has done some really dark, tough things to people and to other vampires. So, as Lestat was telling that story where he
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, I made Nikki mad and then I turned him, but I had already broken his mind and broken his heart that he couldn't handle this and he was just spiraling out. And I didn't have it in me to actually end him, which I knew was the right thing to do because I loved him so much.
Yeah.
Oh, but Armand stepped in and threw him in a fire and held him there with a poker. I was just like, I am not surprised that Armand did this after everything that we learned about him in Interview with the Vampire and the things that he has done.
Yeah.
It was not surprising that he stepped in and did this, but it definitely bonded him and Lestat in a really messy, dark way.
And they're just such contrasting personalities as well. And I think this is why they could be the best of friends at times, but also at other times be fully against each other.
Yeah, watching them sitting in that box where Armand was just like, I love you. And Lestat's like, I need to get out of here.
It's just like Armand in a lot of ways is very direct. Even with the I love, he just says things. And Lestat is so emotional, and a lot of that's why we love him. It's just like acts completely out of immaturity at times. He also wears his heart on his sleeve. He's ridiculous. Like, he's all of these different things. I can understand this being very frustrating for somebody like Armand, who just wants to put all the cards on the table, really for better or honestly for worse.
Yes.
Here's the other sort of tinfoil hat thing I'm wondering about
Mhm.
when it comes to Armand. Is like, he is a very ancient vampire. Like, he has
Yes.
been around a really, really long period of time. And despite whatever affection he might have for Lestat, mixed with whatever jealousy and all these other things that have been built up there, I think he wants to ensure preservation to a certain extent. And I think one of the big question marks moving forward this season is, how worried are people going to get increasingly about some of Lestat's antics? I mean, he's floating in the middle of the rock shows. There's everything going on with Detroit. Like, I am sort of wondering, is Armand at this meeting because he's trying to get information for someone else? Like, is he really just there to try to facilitate some sort of larger information gathering so that if there is a group that needs to go in and stop Lestat before it gets worse, they can.
Yeah, and I don't know that he's necessarily there to kill him. It
Mm.
feels a lot like he is there to stop the flow of information, to try to figure out, okay, first I'm going to start with this bandmate. Okay, we're in an anonymous meeting. Let's
Yeah.
see if this guy actually reveals anything about Lestat's true self. How much does the band know before I even get to Lestat to deal with him? Yeah, I feel like Armand probably is working with a bigger group of vampires, or at least some other vampires. He is somebody who, from our time with him, doesn't seem to be like to be alone.
Yeah, he always seems to, and he knows so many people. Like, that's the other thing.
Right.
Like, when you're as connected as Armand is, and yes, Armand has certainly made his fair share of rivals slash foes over the years,
Yes.
but he still has some people theoretically in his corner. He knows how to be a leader. He knows how to pass along information. Like, he's all of these things, but he can also be very duplicitous. And like, this then leads into the questions of, okay, how much does Louis know about everything that's happening with Armand at this point as well?
Yeah, I'm very curious about that.
Let's just talk about Louis now for a minute, because he didn't have a lot of screen time. I will say, this is very macabre of me to say, but if I have a beef with this episode, I wanted to see Louis take out more of these Detroit red shirt vampires. We
Oh,
got a little bit of it,
I'm
but
on the opposite
oh,
side. I thought that seeing the silhouettes of him going from room to room to room and the blood on the windows and the lights turning on, I was just like, my heart was beating out of my chest, where they were showing me enough that I knew how bad it was, but I wasn't seeing all the really, super gore lore going on. It felt a lot like The Testaments, which is a show that
yeah.
we just covered, where something very simple like a bow untied gave me the whole story of how dark something happened to somebody. You know what I mean? And watching him go in and see those silhouettes, the way that it was going through, my imagination was running wild.
I like to think I have an imagination,
You
but
sure do.
I also have an impulse if I just want to see Jacob Anderson just like destroy a lot of people on screen.
I just wanted to see Bruce get it, and I did.
Bruce, 100% guy. I love Louis. Like, this is the thing. He's such an amazing character. And
Yes.
everything, yeah, he took out all of these really bad vampires. He also freed the food, and it's a
Yeah.
simple thing, but I really appreciated that we actually did physically get to see that. And
Yeah.
yeah, we had everything with Bruce, who is just one of the worst people imaginable. I mean, even just the idea that Bruce is just sort of sitting there taunting Louis the entire time or laughing. It's just like, can you just go? Like, that was an instance where I was fine if they just wanted to rush this. Louis, you don't need to talk to this guy. He's not worth your time.
It was interesting because when he first started reading the diary, I was just like, don't read Claudia's words. Bruce doesn't deserve to hear this hurt that he did
No.
to her. But as it was going on, I was like, you listen to every single word, Bruce, before you died. And this is going to be the last words you hear. Everything you did to Claudia. And I was totally on board with it. And then it got raised to this even higher level where we saw these flashes of what Louis was reading about what happened to Claudia for that week by Bruce,
Yeah.
locked in this little room, these things that were happening to her, and then the same things that are happening to Lestat with his maker. I was just like, oh my God. The amounts of trauma and things that have happened to him are just, there's so many layers. They're just straight to the basement, straight to the top.
It's devastating to watch. I mean, it's also another really, really great performance. And I think that's why we've all grown so attached to this particular show. We just all
Yes.
are so emotionally impacted by these immortal people who it's impossible to fully relate to or understand, but we can understand all of these individual moments, all these
Yeah.
things that they have gone through.
Well, that's the thing about this interview with the vampire series altogether. All 3 seasons of this is, I think that the reason that it has worked so incredibly well, and some of their other shows, Mayfair Witches, Talamasca, they
Yeah.
just aren't hitting in that same level because there is just so much emotion, relatability,
Mhm.
dealing with trauma, things that other people watching the show have dealt with that are watching this are like, oh, this is happening in this sort of fantastical world with vampires, but these are very real things that happen to them that have happened to other people. And it's incredible how emotional this show is.
100%. But now I do have to put on the beef hat for a moment before we get to the end of this
Yep.
video. AMC, producers of Interview with the Vampire. I love you guys for the most part. You do really good work. But why did you announce that Delaney Hales was in this season before we
I
watched these
know.
It just felt like they ruined their own surprise. I know that it was already established in this last episode that,
Yep.
all right, Louis encountered somebody who reminded him a lot of Claudia. So we
Yep.
all knew that this could be coming, but
Yep.
it would have been a really, really great reveal if we didn't know that this actress was going to be a part of the show somehow. But then we saw her and it's like, oh, yeah, of course. We knew that she was going to be here. It was just, it ruined something that could have been a really good moment for them.
Absolutely. Like, this is going to be a weird connection, but NCIS, years and years and years ago, they got rid of Ziva. She was dead.
Yeah.
And then it was like, however many years later, 7 or 8 years
Yeah.
later, they like flew the actress in at like the middle of the night and got her on set at like 1 o'clock in the morning to walk down a staircase, and nobody knew. And they got her out in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
by the time we got to this episode and it actually happened, nobody knew in any way that this was going to be happening. And I think that this was something they really should have just done the same.
Yeah.
Under the cloak of night, just get her in there, film that scene, and get out.
Yeah, like the amount of effort you have to put into hiding it is worth it in the end. Just to
Yes.
produce like those few seconds of endorphins where we're all just like jaws on the ground. Like when that Ziva thing happened, I remember we both like
They had to pick me up off the
Yeah.
floor. I could not believe what I was
we
seeing.
both legitimately screamed. And I think that it's an apt comparison, just NCIS in general, because I know that there are critics of, oh, why does this show keep casting the same people for multiple roles? NCIS has done that, Law and Order stuff. Like a lot of shows have done that. But I think because Interview with the Vampire, Vampire Lestat, they really play off this like theatricality. I have no problem with them casting Delaney to play more than a singular role. I just have a problem with the way in which they did it.
I still didn't have an inside voice anymore when I saw her on screen. I was so excited. And especially since Louis had felt like, yeah, I wrapped everything up. I'm on my way home. I'm just going to stop back at this cafe again and see this waitress one more time. And I was like, are you leaving? Are you leaving? Or now that you're sitting here
Yeah.
with this, Claudia lookalike, are you making another Claudia? Are you thinking about turning her? Like
Yeah.
what is going on in your mind? You can't just be leaving and that's it.
Well, Louis, come in here. We need to interview you now
Yes.
because I think this is the big question mark moving forward. What does Louis want with her? Like, my hope is that he just takes some time and gets to know her and starts to
Yes.
understand more of, okay, is she someone who could benefit from this or not? Like, Louis, don't force her to do something against her will. Just like actually give us an opportunity to explore this dynamic.
Absolutely.
But that is where we are coming out of the Vampire Lestat season 3, episode 3. Let us know your thoughts on Louis, the new Claudia, everything else in this episode, and be sure to join our memberships for more coverage of the Vampire Lestat, like Jess mentioned earlier. We have a theory all about whether or not Lestat is still alive. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
We'll see you here next time.